It's come time for me to build my shaping stand, and so for this episode I'm going to take a bit of a different approach and provide a tutorial about how I built it. The first step was for me to find the center line of the room. So to do that, I'm measuring the midway point for both the rear of the room and then also the front. Next, I pulled the chalk line from that screw I just put in, pulled the chalk line all the way to the back of the room and gave it a snap. A little old school division for you. I wonder if they still teach you how to do this in school, or if instead they just teach you how to ask, "Hey Google, how do you do division?" In my particular case, the center of the room was 77 3/8. I'm placing the 2-foot mark of the tape measure on the center point so that I can then mark 0 and then 4 foot, and this will represent the two ends of my shaping stand. Next, I'm marking a square line for each leg to be aligned to. Each leg is 6 inches thick. The skill saw I'm going to use is only about 2 inches and a bit in terms of depth. So what that means is I have to cut off a bit off each side and then finish it with a handsaw. I'm making this first leg at a height of 26 inches. When I combine it with the thickness of the body that'll connect the two legs, I'll be at about 30 inches in height. The idea behind this is to get your rails at a comfortable working level when a board is on its side inside the shaping stand. I'm 5'10" in height, and this is just kind of like what works for me. I'm checking for any slope in the subfloor because you want to place that leg you just cut at the correct height at any high point. And then the next one that you cut is going to be cut slightly taller so that the connection between the two of them will be perfectly level. When you're building a surfboard, you want to be working with a super level shaping stand. The reason for that is as you're going through the various stages of the board building process, errors will compound, and so you want to minimize the risk of that as much as possible. I'm going to be securing each leg to the subfloor with 6-inch lag screws from underneath. So here I'm making some pilot holes for those lag screws. Next, I move on to the second leg, which will be made slightly different from the first one. It's currently a lot taller than what it needs to be, but what I'm going to do here is take a level line from the first leg in order to account for any slope in the subfloor. And for this one, I'm looking at 26 and 5/16 of an inch. That's 5/16 of an inch taller than the first one because of a little slope in the floor. I'm marking all 4 sides of the leg on the floor so that I can get it back to the exact same place after I pre-drill the holes for the lag screws. The wood I'm using is decades old 6x6 rough cut, so I'm placing my lag screws at about 1.5 inches in from each corner. That's the legs cut and in position. Now it's time to make the body that's going to tie the 2 sides together. I'm doing 48 inches in length because I feel 4 feet is the ideal length for doing all kinds of board sizes in general on a fixed setup. Again, the wood is too thick for a single cut like before. In this case, it's 4 inches thick, so I need to rotate it to cut it a second time. I was kind of expecting this to happen. As I cut through that piece of wood, because of the weight of the two sides, each side started to pinch on the blade, so I had to get a couple clamps to hold it down securely and stop it from lifting in the middle and pinching on that blade. And that's the body. Now it's time for me to make the shoulders for the arms. The shoulders will be 10 inches wide with the arms fastened to the sides. I'm fastening the arms to the sides as opposed to placing them on top, simply because I'm more concerned about keeping the arms plumb and ultimately the shaping stand super level. Because I'm using waste wood, I'm trying to find the best part of the piece to cut the 10 inches out of. Because the entire surface of the body piece is actually a work area, you need it to be completely flat. So you cannot just simply place your shoulders on top of the body. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a dado into the shoulders and then a rabbet into the body piece so that they can merge together and be one complete plane. To cut the rabbets into the body, I'm taking the skill saw and running it at about 1.5 inches in terms of depth and making a whole number of slices through the piece of wood. After, what I'll do is I'll knock all those out, chisel it, and sand it down nice and flat. So same on the opposite side, slice it with a skill saw, knock out the slices, chisel it, and finally sand it flat. Using the same approach, I did the dados in the shoulders, and then moved on to sanding all the pieces. Finally, it was time for assembly, starting with securing the legs with the 6-inch lag screws from under the subfloor. And to secure the top, I used lag screws through the shoulder, the body, and into the legs. This resulted in a super tight construction. With the legs, body, and shoulders fully assembled, it was now time for me to figure out the height of my arms. Because we use side lights that have shelves over top, the purpose of that is to project the light across the surface of the surfboard blank and help us cast shadows, and we can determine where there's high spots and low spots. But because of this, I knew where my maximum height would be for the surfboard blank, and so I measured down a few inches from that to determine where the hands should be, and then another couple inches for the top of the arms. I got the first arm screwed into place, and then I grabbed the level to ensure I had placed it on plumb. And then this particular arm was to be the master or the origin point to determine the height of the other three, because I have to make sure everything else is level with this first one. Now this is important. You're not just looking for level on one side of the stand. You want to make sure it's level across all the different points. Now with it fully assembled, I moved on to the varnish. For varnish, I'm using spar varnish, or as we say in Hong Kong, marine varnish. I'm doing 3 coats. Between each coat, I sand with 220 grit sandpaper, and I had to wait about 2 days between each coat because the ambient temperature is about 5 degrees, and when you sand it, you want to make sure the varnish is super dry. After varnishing, I'm changing out the yellow 3-inch screws for the final black structural screws that are 4.5 inches long and are going to hold the arms nice and tight. Finally, padding. I'm using 1 3/4 inch foam here. Very important, make sure you only use white. Do not use any other color, because if you use another color other than white, you risk the color of that material transferring onto your white surfboard blank. Trust me, it will happen. And so you want to keep everything super clean. Hygiene is number 1. But the glue up took a few days since, true to the Chris Tilby form, I didn't want to rush anything, and so I did the verticals of the arms, let that cure for a day, so then I could fold over the pads to do the tops and then finally the edges. So I am stoked by how this turned out. Stoked that it's made from waste, and also stoked that the wood that I used is possibly up to 100 years old. How do I know that? Because of this I found inside one of the wall cavities. And so for this video, I want to thank Anonymous Guy in the UK, Nelson and Janice and family in Hong Kong, and the Wood Nerd for their generosity in helping me keep this project going. If you also would like to help out and or appreciated this tutorial on how I built my shaping stand, please consider chipping into the workshop building effort. The link is in the description below. And in return for your generous support, I will give you a discount for life on my surfcraft, whether it be surfboards, t-shirts, or whatever can be found on my website. Thanks so much everybody, and have an awesome 2023.